Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented lightworkers and innovative influencers of our time. One of our hot topics for Unite the Light this year was conscious capitalism. It's a new pouring of awareness into business where we're pouring hyper awareness of the person that works for the situation, how the money is made, the care that goes into it, compassion, and even being able to monitor our waste of resources. This is conscious capitalism. And in that process, we not only have a guest tonight that is an expert in the field and a leading edge, but she was also one of the panelists at Unite the Light. But first, we have one little thing to promote, and that is the new class we have coming out at seriousjoy.academy. We have finally, after many requests, developed 2 courses that are the introduction to step astrology. One course is for someone who lives at home, probably deals with family, and is always looking to leverage and grow the family at large. The other is Intro for Professionals, where you can learn how to incorporate step astrology into your professional life. For a little bit more, here's a little spot we made. From the creators of 40 Days of Past Lives and Karma and 40 Days of Self-Love comes the class you've been waiting for, an introduction to step astrology. That's right, I'm sharing some of my inside secrets on how to read a chart according to step astrology and help you interpret the stars, whether it's for yourself or for clients. Keep a lookout for us coming soon. Serious Joy Academy and Introduction to Step Astrology. I'm really excited to welcome our guest tonight, Lisa M. Brazelton, to the podcast today. She was recently a panelist at our Unite the Light event in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm happy to have her share some of her insights in our Astro Mingle audience as well. Lisa is a lifelong seeker. She has been a serial entrepreneur and an author who spent over 30 years helping people and organizations unlock their highest potential. Lisa's journey has included near-death experience and an artistic awakening, both which shaped her unique approach to leadership and personal growth. She's created over 65 transformational programs and blend neuroscience, ancient wisdom, and practical tools for real change. As the founder of multiple companies and the author of The Greatest Gift, Lisa is passionate about helping leaders build cultures rooted in self-awareness, trust, and purpose. So please help me in joining and welcoming her. She's a Pisces with a Virgo rising, Lisa M. Brazelton. Hello, Lisa. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much, Christopher.
It's nice to have you.
It's an honor to be here, and it's great to see you again.
Likewise. I want to say, first of all, I was really impressed with the depth of your performance at Unite the Light. We didn't really rehearse our questions or anything, so it was the first time for me. And you've put so much thought into your work. I mean, tremendous thought. I'm just curious, sort of like, for people who are out there maybe with an ambition to change an industry, did you set aside time for that thought, or is that something that comes in pieces? What's the process of harnessing powerful, transformative thought like that?
I think it's time. It's just over the course of 30 years. I've been running companies for over 30 years.
I see.
I have 8 startups in that amount of time. And and a lot of other science and a lot of other astrology and medicine in my background. So I think it's just the cultivation of time and maybe a little grace.
Yeah, I understand that. So I feel the same way. I mean, if you're working under a situation that's less than desirable, and you're a person like yourself, you can't help but continually think of solutions along the way. Yeah. So you have a unique job title. Speaking of your writing ability, you call yourself a conscious architect and an innovation strategist and coach. Excuse me. Can you break that down for us, exactly what you mean by those terms?
Yeah, I think, thanks for asking. Not a lot of people ask that question. I think consciousness has been something that has fueled my interest since I was young.
Mm.
And the architect piece is really what the builder does. A builder is someone who goes in and learns what the foundation of a building means. And I actually have some of that background I just put on an architect hat for one of my
Mm.
companies in Canada. But given that I've written over 65 courses, I had to go through the program in order to architect it.
Mm.
As as an innovator, as someone who's always been on the side of let's try something that nobody else has ever done, I'm I feel that I have that ability to just see things that people can't quite see. I've been told that I'm about 20 years ahead of my time. And to some extent I was. I mean, I started writing conscious curriculum with one of my companies that I started called Business Leaders for Tomorrow in 2005,
Mm.
where I actually started to, if you can believe this, the US government was one of my clients and I
Mhm.
was teaching consciousness curriculum. But it was this ability to, how do we find ways that, not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but doing it in a way that twists it to embody something new. And although I have been a CEO for a long time and a business executive, I have been coaching probably for about 15 years. And
Mm.
I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, I've just taken it to a whole different level and I love it. I love coaching CEOs.
Mm. Yeah, I'm curious to bring that up. Coaching CEOs. I mean, first of all, CEOs are people who kind of business athletes, right? They have their style, they have their way of performing, and it seems that I don't know what it feels like from the outside looking in is that they're inflexible. I don't know though. Is there an overall approach you take to someone with that kind of knowledge base?
The knowledge base of the
Well, no, the knowledge base is just that they have their ways of doing it. This is how they run their business. I imagine it's kind of a touchy approach.
Well, you know what's really interesting, Christopher, is
Mm.
a lot of people do ask me that question, and I I find, or I would say, the leaders who are ready to transform will find
Mm.
me.
Okay, that makes total sense.
And they're ready to change. They're
Okay.
ready to dive deeply into their own self-awareness because they know that they can be better at their job. Those who are not open, I'm not interested in working with them.
Okay. Yeah. So those are filtered out from the beginning. It's not a challenge. These people are open and
And
ready.
it's an energy.
Yeah.
It's an energy. So someone has to be open and vibrating at the same frequency in order for us to match and find each other.
I remember. I don't remember what year it was. I think it was. Man, I can't recall. But when the magazine Fast Company came out,
Yeah.
to me that was a real like inspiration of like, whoa, business is actually considering itself as under the microscope of change. And it was exciting at that time. But I think it was kind of more web driven than anything else. Have you seen an industry push towards innovation and transformation? Because when you look at Amazons and stuff, the innovation seems to be in deployment, not necessarily in management.
You know, that's such a great question. I have clients that are in every industry you can imagine.
Mm.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that it is from, although I don't work too much in manufacturing,
Mm.
but definitely IT. I work with companies that are in finance, M&A, recruiting.
Mm.
Um, you name it. I mean, it really is the gamut. And again, it's not so much the industry,
Mm.
it's that leaders are starting to push themselves to be a better version of themselves.
Mm.
And there is a new paradigm shift that's is occurring. That's what I'm seeing.
Mm.
And the old school way is dying. It's this old paradigm of this is my way, it's the highway, versus it being a mind map, if you will, of an organizational chart versus the top-down approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. I've noticed that in tech companies. I mean, I have a brother who works in high tech, so he's been telling me some of the, the committees that run departments in Google, for instance, versus one single leader. Have you seen things restructuring like that in your world and with your clients?
Yeah, there's a lot of shift. There's a lot of change. There's increase in revenue. There's downsizing. There's mergers. I actually have a couple clients that are really interested in selling in order to do something that they really love. So it's also a what's next for them as they're diving deeper into what fueled them to be where they're at
Mm.
today. They want to find out what their legacy is
Mm.
and they want to live it. And I'm a big believer of we don't just need to leave a legacy, we need to live our
Mm.
legacy. And a lot of leaders that I've worked with over the last several years have found their way to freedom in a way that no longer keeps them caged in the very same company that I started working with them.
Mm. Interesting. How does this process and journey begin for you, from corporate executive to basically healer and intuitive? How did that unfold? And what do you think were the pivotal moments? Because in the old business days, those two did not go together.
I know. Well, I think part of it is that I rejected corporate
Mm.
America and I just knew that I had the ability to do it
Mm.
better. Um, I did have a corporate job a very, very, very long time ago, and I did very well, but I had a lot of competition, and part of the competition was
Mm.
leadership. And I thought, this isn't for me. Let me go and do something on my own. And so I did, and it became very successful. It was the very first company that I started.
Hmm. Wow.
And that was in the late 1990s, mid 1990s. And and so over the course of my career, I always believed in this sixth sense, this intuition. I've always been fascinated with mysticism and ancient cultures and alternative medicine and
Mm.
language. And I always felt that as I was a kid growing up and in high school, everybody always came to me with their problems or the secrets that they wanted to share because they knew it was a safe
Mm.
place. And I had the ability to see things or feel things with people that they didn't quite know how to put the language to
Mm.
them. And fast forward in between the businesses that I started, I decided that I wanted to get into
Mm.
medicine. And so I studied Chinese medicine and became very close to a PhD, MD in
Wow.
Chinese medicine and
Mm.
herbologist because my very first company was a health and life
Hmm.
insurance company. And it was something that I didn't like at all. I was wondering why the healthcare system was so messed up at
Mm.
the time, and it's worse now. And so I wanted to be on the other side of healing. At the towards the very end of this 4 year, and I was also working. I had a company, and I was going to school full time. It was incredibly rigorous. I was given some information from one of the qigong masters that was at the school, and he had worked with a small cohort of us, and and um, he invited us over to his he had an office, and he said anybody who wants to get any needling done, any acupuncture done, I'll do it, no problem, for
Hmm.
free. And I remember going over there once, and he wasn't in the room. He was actually in a different room with a pendulum, and I felt all the needles go in me.
Hmm.
And by the time we were done, I said, "What did you just do?" And he said, "I just did energy work on you."
Wow.
He goes, "This The needle is a placebo. It's the intention behind the patient and the practitioner that actually
Mm.
heals. And I thought, okay, done. I'm out of here. And I went then to go find the best energy healing technology I could possibly get my hands on. And that led me to Matrix Energetics back in 2009, 2010. So that was just part of my journey of, going from business and having these, this parallel life almost of, yes, business and then spiritual healing.
Could you expand after that last question on how ancient Hermetic and Da Vinci principles can be practically applied to monitor your business or your growth?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually part of the wealth consciousness, the Chamber of Wealth Consciousness
Mm.
program that I started and I developed in 2017 for global
Oh
leaders.
wow.
And I've been fascinated with Hermetic principles. I was fascinated with Da Vinci back in the early 2000s, read as much as I possibly could. And they both, right? The Hermetic principles are laws that are constant. And how do we bring and harness these amazing pieces of wisdom and this I would call it a
Mm.
path to enlightenment through these teachings that are constant? And how do we bring these teachings to our everyday life? That is what the Chamber of Wealth Consciousness program is all about. It actually takes these incredible teachings and it sifts them down, brings them down in today's
Mm.
world, learn how to harness these to a way in which I call the it's DNA wealth codes,
Mm.
which is activating the divine love, the divine power, and the divine wisdom that we all have within us. And when we activate that, we activate it for everyone
Mm.
around us. That's where true miracles happen. That's where synchronicities show up.
Yeah, perhaps documented. Because businesses are very good about having usually Bibles or note taking of how things decisions, etc. So you're more likely to document that change. So how do you then bring in intuition? Because intuition is sort of one of those things that I find myself always saying. You may believe this or not. Da 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 da. Is it that you have CEOs that are already on that path, or do you have to go through sort of it seems like business is always sort of kind of washing out things to be sort of vanilla and easy to understand. But some of these concepts you're working on are, I think, kind of magical and different than normal business, right? So how do you approach something like that?
Well, you're asking a great question, and I didn't answer it earlier. So, my intuition, I think I have always used, but I didn't know what to
Mm,
call it. But I can tell you in business when I didn't use
okay.
it. And when I didn't use my intuition was when I doubted myself. And when I doubted
Mm,
myself, the whispers that were in my heart is when one of my companies went belly up.
mm.
Very big, very costly lesson, multi-million dollar lesson.
So, but yeah, go ahead.
So, so I do teach how to tap into, and I do believe it is not easy because we're so filled with mind
Mm,
chatter. When we get still, and that's what I work with my clients. I said, you're going to eventually learn how to meditate, but we're going to talk about breath work for at least the first
mm,
6 months, and you're going to master breath work. It's only when we quiet the mind and we get into stillness where we can hear the whispers. The
mm,
whispers come here.
mm-hmm.
The whispers are not here.
Yeah.
The whispers are here. And so when we can understand that anytime that there's fear, anytime when there's doubt, that's not
Mm-hmm.
intuition. Intuition is an immediate knowing. It's not a questioning. It's not even a believing. There's a difference between believing and knowing.
Yeah, vibrational for sure inside of you.
Sure.
So, how would you describe what it means to be a conscious leader, or to build a conscious enterprise? What does conscious, I guess, mean in capitalism?
I think consciousness is the ability to look at
Mm.
yourself through self awareness. It's the ability to see, to have your consciousness reflect back to you.
Hmm.
And when there is the ability to take a pause, to breathe, to stop as a leader, to be able to think with, I would say,
Hmm.
empathy, emotional intelligence, intellectual humility, thinking about a bigger picture, its its purpose beyond
Hmm.
profit. These are things that are the catalyst for a conscious enterprise, but it starts at leadership.
Hmm.
It can't start anywhere else. And the prerequisite for me to be able to work with any leader and therefore any of their organization is that a leader has to be working with either a coach or myself as a coach, working through their own
Mm.
shadow, working through what gets in the way, their triggers, their patterns, and then they have to think beyond
Mm.
themselves. It's a pretty tall order, but I can tell you a lot of people are signing up for it because this is the new
Mm.
thing. It's called awakened consciousness leadership.
Okay.
People want to get on board.
Another acronym for business. That's all I needed.
Right, right.
So for practitioners and healers, something that I come across all the time with us is that we often struggle with charging for our services. We tend to kind of underbid. We have sort of a subconscious pull to give it away, but we pull back and give ourselves something. What do you have as far as advice for a practitioner, self-made and self-governed, to help them self-value their work?
Such a great question, Christopher, because I think that therein lies, especially a soul practitioner, a soulpreneur. I've been one. I understand. We wear lots of hats. And I would say that frequency and vibration is probably one of the greatest gifts to understand how to
Mm.
harness, to understand how to maneuver. I'm going to use a word too,
Mm.
manipulate. When we can manipulate energy, we can have anything that we want as our play.
Mm.
It's the props around our life that amplify the things that we're looking for to ultimately have, right? It's the be do have
Mm.
model where we're not here to just have those material things that we think are important. We're here to
Mm.
be. We're a state of being, right? Again, let's go back to the divine love, divine power, and the divine wisdom all have to be cultivated. It's an
Mm.
attunement. And when we have the ability to see that and to see it through, we start to immediately infiltrate that into others. It's an attunement for
Mm.
others. And so, for practitioners who maybe have a struggle, and I would say that there's sometimes a struggle of the financial freedom
Mm.
piece, and there could be self-sabotaging in there. There could be maybe a perfectionism. There's oftentimes, and this is with leaders as
Mm.
well. There could be the inability to feel that they're worthy of charging for their gifts that they
Yeah.
have. I don't believe that as an exchange is an equal value. I think it's important to charge and to stand firm in, if someone says, I'm sorry, I can't afford that, the answer is great, come back when you
Right.
can. I'll be there. I hope I answered your
I feel so.
question.
Um, I feel, as a person who struggled with that as well, I know that one of the things we say in our minds, we don't know enough, in order to put forth enough. It's like this endless, like, mastery of the topic. Do you have sort of a follow up idea for at what point you call it a day and say you're a product?
Um, I really appreciate that question. I think it goes down to a scarcity
Mm,
mindset. There's that. There's maybe I need to do more. There's the I need to get to more people. I'm not doing
mm,
enough. There's I got to hurry up and get because I'm feeling that there's time is running
mm,
out. I think all of this is an illusion. And when we can sit in the frequency of, I'm going to go back, divine love, divine power, divine wisdom,
mm,
we are activating our heart. We're activating the chamber of our
mm,
heart within ourselves. And when we do, we become an activation for others, where
mm,
automatically that frequency gets it's magnetized. It magnetizes people
yeah.
to us. And we become a natural embodiment of the purest and most potent frequency, which is God
Mm,
frequency.
mm. Um,
There is nothing more
yeah.
than that.
And yeah, now can God be said? I'm just curious where the temperament is. Can you say God now in business? It seems like when I was a kid, it was a touchy subject.
I
Yeah,
do.
of course. Yeah.
I mean, I know my
Hmm.
audience, but I dive deep into
Hmm.
spirituality. And if someone isn't interested in spirituality, then they're not going to find
Okay.
me.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah.
How can someone begin to clean their filter and reframe their narrative to attract larger opportunities? Because it seems like, at least in many of my experiences, I sort of get stuck in one lane.
Yeah. I think diversification is a wonderful thing. Anytime we're just doing one thing, I can tell you that a lot of
Mm,
soulpreneurs, they have an entrepreneurial spirit, which means that they have lots of things that they could be
mm,
doing. And again, there's a possibility of a scarcity mindset. Well, I've got to stay focused on this, or else I won't make it, or else somebody else is going to take my place, or else I may miss an
mm,
opportunity. And I feel that there is a way in which to cultivate the creative genius that we all
mm,
have, and to open up that whenever we have an idea, whenever we feel inspired, whenever there's entheos, right, enthusiasm, we need to bring immediately what that's being called, even if it's for a day, for an hour, for a week, to honor what that spark is. That spark is so necessary to act upon. And when we don't act upon it, it'll fizzle out.
mm,
It will it will move like a mist, and it will open the door for other
mm,
people. Now that doesn't mean being in a scarcity mindset, but it does mean to act on those inspirations that I think we all have all the time, but we just put it aside. We think we don't have the time, but all there is to experience joy. And not every moment is going to be in joy, but it certainly is going to be more helpful to stay in a place that is a vibratory match to our inspiration. And we know this too. I mean, I'm sure that you've also felt it when you've just been called to do something that really feels amazing, and all of a sudden you get a call from a potential opportunity, and you're like, that came out of
hmm.
nowhere, right? That's just what happens.
Yeah. And that's the most exciting thing. Excuse me, when something comes to you. Because I know as a leader of an organization, you feel like you have to chase after a lot of times, but law of attraction is just the opposite. So I see the point of reversing the gears, and it's thrilling when it happens. It's thrilling. It's almost like the universe is rewarding you. That's what it feels like to me. You've mentioned meditation in your practice. How does meditation and daily inner work play into your own life and your success? Where have you seen results?
I have been a devotee of meditation for 25 years. When I started meditating, I was meditating for about 4 to 5 hours a day.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know.
Is that clear the mind meditation?
I went into the
Mm,
cosmos during my meditation. And actually, during that time, my son was really
mm,
young, and I would get up super early, 4 o'clock, 3:30, and I would sit on my cushion, and he would find me, and he'd curl up on
oh,
my lap, and he'd go
oh,
back to
that's cute.
yeah, so adorable. Um, and it was a wonderful time to be able to meditate
Mm,
that long. I don't meditate that long anymore, but I meditate daily, and I hold it as a sacred practice within my daily life. And it allows me to be able to start my day and end my day with a space of
mm,
calm and gratitude. And I hold a gratitude journal. I have an accountability
mm.
partner I've been having for the last
Wow.
5 years. These practices are so important because I teach
Mm,
them. I would be a walking contradiction if I just said what's important to do, but I
yeah.
didn't do it. And I'm a big believer of looking in the mirror all the time. If something triggers me, Christopher, I don't point the finger other than to a
Mm,
mirror, and I look to say, okay, what's in it? What have I not seen? What do I need to heal? What is that that's triggering me in another person or that situation? And it just requires
mm,
self-reflection. And I spend a lot of time, as much as I can, in contemplation, in concentrated constant contemplation, introspection. And I always love to find juicy insights about
mm.
myself. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just realized that I've been holding on to this for so long. I want to share it
Yeah.
because my shift and my insight gets to be the insights for
Mm,
others, including my
mm.
clients.
Yeah. And I find too, as they say, eat your own dog food. You know, um, I find that there's things from putting myself through the experience that I myself never thought of. And just going through the process that you teach. Now, how does the client transformation work for you? I mean, can you give a specific example of how a client has transformed in a way that sort of illustrates your business fundamentals with your inner work, like that mending or melding of the two?
Yeah, I can tell you just even today, I had a conversation with a client. I had a coaching call today, and we're at a 6 month mark. And so I said, hey, you want to continue working together? How's it
Mm,
been? Can you give me your top three of your takeaways right now? And where do you want to go? And he said, you're not ready to go, leave this. And I'm like, no, no, no. We'll continue working together, but I want to know, where are you and where do you want to
mm,
go in your own personal journey as an
mm,
individual, a father, a parent, a leader. And so, one of the things that he shared with me today, which I thought was really
mm,
beautiful, is he said, I was living two different lives.
mm,
I had the spiritual side of me, and I had my leadership hat on. He goes, I didn't know how to integrate it. And over the last 6 months, I've been able to truly integrate my awareness of self in a way that is giving me access to be a better leader. And I know that because of all the things we've worked on. And I said, that's phenomenal. And he gave me a couple of other things that are going on, including the fact that they've just now are on a hiring spree. They're hiring more people, and they're hoping to get in a position where one of the 7 companies that he owns could be ready for either merger acquisition or something like that. So he was excited, and I said, okay, great. Well, where do you want to go? And he goes, I want to dive so deeply into self
Mm.
awareness. I want to know myself better than I've ever known myself. And Christopher, that was one of the most inspiring things
Mm.
because he is doing the
Mm.
work.
Yeah.
And what an inspiration, because he's got hundreds of employees.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is that like midlife that triggers that? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, because I see that I see that turn like a light bulb in people, and I haven't actually found an astrological reference to it, but there's just suddenly they finally take interest in themselves because a lot of overachievers just kind of play on their talents, and I never see them stop. You know, but
I think it's a matter of a few different things. I think that part of it is, if they've had a scare in their
mm,
business, right? Some key player leaves. I've seen that a few
mm,
times. Um, in this particular instance, is that he wanted to know what was next for him in his life beyond the
mm,
business, and so he's finding himself being closer and closer to that reality, which he's excited about because he has a young daughter and he wants to be able to do things that he loves. I will also say that a lot of my clients, they not only get my coaching, but they get the
mm,
program, and the program is a very important piece. The wealth consciousness
mm,
program, because it dives deeply into Hermetic principles and some of the Da Vinci principles, and to really harness, like I said, these ancient, they're
mm,
codes that open up. They literally change the way our DNA is structured. Now, that may sound a little bit woo woo out there. It doesn't matter. I know what they've done. Hundreds of global leaders have been in this program, and it's always done in the same way. It's live, it's 1 hour, it's over 12 weeks. That's the first level. And it's in small, intimate cohorts in an intimate setting via
mm,
Zoom. And the amount of insight that goes, and the, the camaraderie,
mm,
the
mm,
closeness that leaders go to, that they don't know each other. But I'll tell you, by the time they're done with the program, level 1, level 2, level 3, I have had people actually start working
mm,
together. They actually did business together because of the connection is such a trust building. um it's almost like its own high vibrational frequency
mm,
container itself that people feed from, because one person's insight is everybody's insight. That's the secret
mm,
sauce. And I'm telling you, the more and more we're going to start seeing, more and more leaders are going to want to
mm,
change. They're ready for it because people are ready. People are ready to consciously awaken. I'm starting to see more and more people. And we know that. Just unite the light. The conversations that we're
mm.
having, people are open,
Yeah.
thankfully.
They were. It feels like they were destined for it because suddenly it became an interesting topic to the generation that was going to change it. You know, kind of popped in there. What would you say are some practical steps that listeners can take to uncover their hidden gifts and begin making a better living for themselves?
I'm so glad you asked me that, because I would like to leave with like a nugget of really important, just a couple of questions to ask. So, one of the principles is the principle of
Mm,
oneness. And although oneness can be very misunderstood, because oneness often is It's used a lot. Let's
Hmm.
just put it
Yeah.
that way. But it can only be mastered when we understand how the constriction operates within our
Mm.
lives. And it's only through uncoiling the constriction.
Mm.
And sometimes we have to move into that coil a little bit more in order to uncoil.
Hmm.
And so we all have wounds that we carry. And I think it would be really interesting for the audience to ask themselves, where does your sacred wound sit within your body? What is it? Where does it show up? How does it feel? Is it numb? Is it raw? Does it sit in your chest? Does it sit in your shoulder? Does it sit in the back of your
Mm.
neck? What is the self talk
Mm.
around that wound?
Mm.
What are you accepting or not accepting about yourself that's associated with this
Mm.
wound? And I think, again, it's having the courage to go in it, to really embody that coiledness in order to see it uncoil and unrestrict is is I think, I hope that everyone can take those questions and really sit with
Mm.
it, because it's until we decide that it's in our own
Mm.
courage of facing the things that are uncomfortable is really the gateway to freedom. That's true
Hmm.
sovereignty right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Licking the fear. Yeah. Have you mentioned that you purposely do not try to grow a big social media following. Why is that? Because that seems to be like the quintessential now.
I know I have had a lot of people ask me that. Um, I haven't always
Mm.
been like that. I had a podcast. I was doing social media like crazy. I had a bunch of people putting posts and blogs and all kinds of stuff. And then I thought, well, let me see about just changing my vibration.
Oh,
What would it be like if I could just magnetize opportunity to me?
okay. So you're energetically
And
marketing.
I'm energetically marketing. I would call this artful
Mm.
marketing because it is a way in which to tap into my greatest divine power
Hmm.
and reach in connection and collaboration with
Hmm.
source and allow to see what unfolds. And things, Christopher, that have unfolded without me being on social media, I can't even tell you, is absolutely astounding. I have a waiting list of coaching clients
Wow.
right now.
So I'm curious now, as a fellow manifester, is this something that you would do regularly, like in your morning practice? This, energetic marketing, or is it a one and done, or is it have?
No, it's
Mhm.
always, I mean, because our vibration does
Mm.
alter, right? Given the circumstances of the day or things that are going on in life and personal life and family and
Mm-hmm.
work and colleagues and
Yeah.
clients. And so I think um, it's almost as if it's a part of my
Mm.
meditation, because if it wasn't just like meditation, it would become
Mm.
atrophied. If we don't meditate every day, as if we don't work out every day, we're going to have muscles that will go atrophy. And so this is a practice for me, is how do I stay in my high vibration? And I do it through
Mm.
servitude. I believe in sacred
Mm.
servitude. Anywhere where I can lend kindness and love and acceptance and grace, warmth, these are all reciprocal. So I like to think of myself as when I see opportunity come to me that I haven't done any digital marketing for is an
Mm.
affirmation that I'm on the right path and I'm doing the right things because that's the equation. That's that's the recipe that has the best cake.
Hear that, Facebook? We see it's sort of one of the dominators now of social media advertising. How do you then, with many of the archaic, older religions, we'll say, there's this sort of separation of financial success and holiness. How do you balance the need for financial success with spiritual and personal fulfillment at the same time? How do you keep that, from overrunning sales? And how do you avoid the temptation just to go for the sales?
I have.
Mm,
I used
hmm
to, and it bit me hard.
mm,
Remember, my my commitment to my clients is to ensure that they understand the importance of purpose over profit. I have to live with the same
mm,
principles. And although I do appreciate material success, it absolutely does not drive me. And that hasn't always been
hmm
the case. And the more I was in the three-dimensional um, density, right, of life, the less happy I
hmm
was. The less material that's important to me, the more happy I am. And the irony behind it is I've been I'm more successful than I was when I had 65 employees.
hmm Yeah. I find that some of the starter steps for me were also much bigger bangs as we went up and grew. What about people who feel isolated and unsupported, especially in this post-COVID world where a lot of us are moving or living from home, and they're also unsupported in their entrepreneur or spiritual journeys? Like they're just, many solo artists out there these days, with all these different opportunities from, Uber, to DoorDash, basically these new jobs where people just live are sole entrepreneurs. How do you, connect at that level?
Find your
Mm-hmm.
community. Find your community and you know what? And not just one. We have to have more than
Mm-hmm.
one community. Um, and I would say find different ways in which to network. And this is also part of it is that networking is can you find where you're helping others? And when you find where you're
Mm-hmm.
helping others and you give them leads as an
Mm-hmm.
example, you're paying it forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, get out of the house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy for me. I do a lot. I mean, I'm in California right now. I'm at a client's site. I do a lot of strategy for them, and I also do some coaching with their leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easy for me when I go back to my office that I'm just on Zoom calls, and that's not helpful. That's not opening myself up. So I always make it a point to go out. I always make it a point to make sure that I'm connected. I would say if you don't have a group of people, then start
Mm-hmm.
small. And I am a big believer of a gratitude journaling. Start a gratitude journaling pod with close friends and learn every single day, be in their space, in their sphere, because then you're connected. I think we can, we get in our way when we feel isolated. And the only way out of isolation is actually to do something different. I'm a big fan of doing something different. Doing the same thing is going to provide the same
Mm-hmm.
experiences. So I think that the chamber, the wealth consciousness is a wonderful program to meet like-minded people. I am offering it. I know we haven't even gone there yet, but I am so excited, Christopher, because this has been a closed. program for CEOs that I've handpicked since 2017. Serious Joys community is the very first that have access to this course.
Oh, thank you. You know, it's difficult in the concept of you know, wealth, because there's a lot of taboo around trying to go after it. I know for light workers especially, we kind of touched on this already. Is there any sort of approach that helps light workers own it more? I don't know if it's a deep-seated, you know, guilt from church, or if it's just the, you know, the lack consciousness you mentioned. But what would you say the first step would be to go to increase that perspective?
Christopher, could you repeat that
So, you
question?
know, right now people may or may not be ready for the program or whatnot, and they're struggling to make sales today. That's what I'm saying. And so you had talked about earlier lack consciousness as part of that. And I was asking, what would be like a good first step that someone can do, you know, right now or in, you know, in the next week to just kind of eliminate that resistance to wealth? It seems to be to some degree almost taboo, especially in spirituality.
A lot of people have asked me that question. And I think that there is a real truth to it. One of the things that I find to be fascinating, and I love
Mm,
neuroscience, I kind of geek out on that kind of stuff. So I do understand that as our 10,000, every minute we have 10,000 cells that
mm,
die. And the peptides that are sitting on those cells actually hold our emotions. And the new cells that get born are not the ones that just died, but the most prevalent of the emotion that we
mm,
carry in our body is what the next cell gets
mm,
reproduced. So if we're feeling scared, if we're feeling
mm,
depressed, if we're feeling worried, we're actually going to produce more cells that are going to be of the same.
mm-hmm,
That to me is amazing
mm-hmm.
information to make a choice and a decision to do something
Yeah.
different. And if we have the ability to step out of that mindset and say, today's a new day, do something different, go get a chocolate chip cookie, whenever that, you know,
Yeah.
back and forth, that, you know, thoughts create feelings, feelings create thoughts, thoughts create feelings, feelings. When that monkey mind
Mm,
goes, do something that's going to be empowering. I don't care, pick up the phone and call your best friend, go for a walk outside, leave the office or your
mm-hmm,
desk, find something that's creative, that gets you out of that mindset, because a habit takes 17 seconds to
mm,
form. It takes like 68 minutes or something like that to break a
mm,
habit. So when we can get out of an old thought
mm,
pattern
mm.
quick, we actually start to neurologically.
Mm. Oh, okay. That's not good. We've had this kind of technology stuff, guys. We had a Void of God day yesterday, and I lost an entire machine. We just had a lot of like what seems to be Mercury retrograde stuff. It's been really frustrating even before the show. So I imagine we just lost something there, and hopefully she'll come back and we'll talk about it here. In the meantime, I would say I think that you know the timeliness. I'll just talk the astrology. The timeliness of this and this interview is really important because right now, for instance, the United States is wrapping up its Pluto transit in the second house. So now the United States, as Pluto has moved into Aquarius, it means that the United States is going to be now innovating all of our ideas. And this shares a border with the second house, which is finances. And so I can't speak for other countries, but I can speak for the United States. We were born with Pluto karma around making money. We were born with a lack of boundaries when it comes to abundance. I believe our Pluto is at step 27, which means that we tend to go too far. We tend to go not far enough. We have boundary issues as a nation that has been such a big push. New York, you know, Chicago, these big capitalistic cities that drive income. And I think we've been, you know, unfortunately part of the problem in a lot of those times. But Now, embracing these new ideas of innovation is going to bring, the United States back into a potential of maybe invention instead of, pushing the envelope. So this is a moment really to recraft business and to look at how it affects the world and how we can ultimately invest in great ideas, which then turns into innovation. I've also mentioned this before with Uranus and Taurus. This is a time where we really started to wake up when it came to technology, efficiency of manufacturing, creating lighter goods, things like that. And so that's a second big picture for innovating capitalism and manifestation. And I mentioned this before, but I'll, forgive me if you hear it again. Last time you were on these degrees of Taurus, we, in a short period of time, invented things like radar and television, and color television actually was invented almost immediately after television. It was just too expensive to manufacture. The nuclear bomb, unfortunately. A lot of technologies that we use today, a lot of the plastics that we use today came in that World War II innovative spirit as well. So we've kind of doubled the innovation with the ruler of Aquarius in the sign of money and moving into Gemini next, which means sort of efficiencies, new processes, new strategies for how we can think about the problem. And that's the other issue I blurted out. Manufacturing is often one of the most challenging aspects of capitalism too. And, one of Tesla's, remarkable ability to strive ahead was that Elon Musk and his team really looked to reinvent the factory and modernize the factory, not from an assembly line perspective, but to the next level. And being, creating parts right there on the factory floor, things that you haven't seen really done since Henry Ford. And so this is a moment. If you feel this call to conscious capitalism, this is the moment. I was just splitting some astrology during that little blackout there.
Thank you.
I hope now I don't feel picked on because I've had so much technology this week that I could tell you I could go on for miles on it.
Thanks for your patience.
What's that?
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no worries. Well, I had a taste of what my audience feels every week, so I understood suddenly. It's funny how things go full circle. In regard to, so I was just saying to the audience that, this is an interesting time for capitalism. In the sense that, when the United States was formed with Pluto's in Capricorn, that was just the beginning of corporations. If I think it was like the India Tea Company was one, which is the Boston Tea Party was based on, and maybe a couple others, and that's it. What do you see today in business maybe as new opportunities as far as what's opening up in the second round of Pluto leaving Capricorn?
Well, not to sound like a broken record, but I don't necessarily know if it's the industry that I'm more aware of as much as I believe that small businesses and entrepreneurs are going to make an all-time high number. I think there's going to be more and more companies, more and more people are going to break away from corporations and they're going to start their own. I think that we're going to see a real increase in, and I would love to see this, by the way, I think I mentioned this in the Unite the Light event, is that right now, 6.3, as of 2023, $6.3 trillion is the health and the wellness industry. By 2027, 2028 is going to be 9 trillion. Now, of that, there's lots of different circles that make up hundreds of millions and billions, but in that are the healing arts. And I know that a lot of your audience are healers. And what does that mean exactly? That means that people who have money are going to want to spend it on alternative healing technology and coaching and all the other tools and innovation that healers actually have as gifts. So this is a time for this particular audience, this industry, to start really taking inventory of what do you want to sell and what do you want to charge for what you want to sell. Never shortchange yourself, because there's enough. First of all, there's no such thing as competition. And
Hmm.
there are so many people who are wanting to get on to be clean, to be healthy, to be conscious.
Mm.
And I think in that the health and wellness is going to just explode.
Mm.
So look at raising your prices, because if they're too low, people won't take you seriously.
Yeah, that's a hard one to digest. But I know it's true. It's interesting, and a certain caliber comes with it. I've also noticed that technology is making a huge shift in the way we do things. I mean, just process. I mean, for one, I mean, for instance, it's like we pretty much are forced to do all the work for cashiers now. you know, because technologies come in and we do our own, self checkout and things like that. So it seems like business has a lot of opportunity in technology. But do you have any insight as to where it can be, bad for the business to rely on technology or hold things back? Because I wonder, how much, there may be reliance on eavesdropping or keystrokes per minute, things like that.
I mean, these are great questions. I think that the more we fear something, the more it's going to show itself.
Mm.
And I do appreciate the Robert Edward Grant comment at the event where we judge the very thing that we judge, the interview that two of you did, the
Hmm.
very thing that we judge is the very thing that's going to show up and it's going to amplify itself. And I do believe that
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. And so can we move away from the fear of technology and into embracing technology through a mutual respect?
Mm.
I appreciate AI as an example, but I am very mindful that whenever I do use it, I say a lot of pleases and thank yous,
Hmm.
because it is giving me, helping me, right? Instead of taking hours to do something, it
Hmm.
will take me very little time. Now I'm very, because I'm a writer, I don't want anybody to write for me, including
Hmm.
AI.
Yeah.
But I feel that it's very important for us to acknowledge that we are being given a lot of tools that could actually make our life easier to be able to do the things that make us feel good. I think the time now for people to say, oh, I work, 50, 60, 80 hours a week. I work so much, I'm exhausted. It's like, well, maybe you can start using some technology to help
Mm.
make the load less so you can feel that you have time to spend time with your family, spend time with your kids, spend time with your spouse or your friends, go out, enjoy your life, go garden, go, all the things that somehow have always been, are oftentimes out of reach with people who believe that they're always busy. It's also
Mm.
not a badge of honor to be so busy.
Hmm. Yeah. Then I'm not honorable. But I hear what you're saying. Do you have any advice in that light for, how to manage time better? Now that I have an expert here, because it seems like good intention for me often leads into being overextended.
Do you know what I did yesterday with one of my executive clients here? Is they have a number of different, when I was at their office, they had a number of different boardrooms, and they had this huge whiteboard.
Hmm.
So he and I are working, and he's got so many plates he's spinning. And I
Hmm.
said, well, let's do a mind map.
Okay.
Let's put down you in the middle and every single thing that you do in your day, in your week,
Hmm.
family, business, all kinds of stuff. So this entire whiteboard was filled with these boxes. I
Hmm.
said, okay, now let's put some time next to each one of them. There's 168 hours in a week.
Hmm.
Without adding sleep in there, he was at 171.
Wow. Wow.
And it was not until he looked at that where he was able to see, I got to cut some stuff out.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, how about you become more efficient
Mm.
What are the things that we can identify in a different marker color that is repetitive?
Mm.
Can you actually pass the baton? A lot of people don't necessarily know how to or want to control, and so they don't delegate. I love
Mm-hmm.
delegating. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite things to do because I don't have to do it, and I know someone is probably more skilled at doing, and it also makes other people feel good to be asked to help.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to see how much time he spent and how much time he didn't need to spend on other things
Mm.
that were more busy work. And it was very helpful. So I think being able to take your, what do you do every day, and look at that from a whole week.
Mm.
And then how much time are you on social media? How much time are you actually working? How much time are you talking? What are you doing during the day? And when we can break that down, we would, I can almost guarantee you'll probably able to find some gaps where
Mm-hmm.
you can notice where you may be putting more time into something that doesn't need it.
Mm. How do you have any tips for prioritizing for a conscious executive? Because I've always learned money first, you know, basically sales first. It's just that core drive of the bull market. How do you teach your executives how to prioritize?
First, everybody has a separate notebook when they work with me.
Mm.
They also have a separate notebook, and everything has to be handwritten
Mm.
because there's something between writing
Mm.
and right and left hemisphere and the four quadrants that need to be working differently than always at the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am a big believer, and I do this every day. I have multiple notebooks. I write out all the things that I need to work on for the day. And I typically do it the day before, but we'll just say in the morning. And then I get into a meditation and I say, okay, well, whatever it is that I'm supposed to accomplish first, let me be in that space of divine harmonic conversions with the co creator, right? With source, and let it come through me.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, Christopher, I am able to get more stuff done in the quickest period of time than I've ever been able to get done because that has become a new habit for me. And whatever I haven't been able to get done for that day, I will cross out the things that are done. And by the way, they happen in different order than what I typically write it,
Mm.
because maybe I'll get a phone call from someone or an email that is an introduction that I didn't anticipate having, but sales may be in there somewhere, or business development. And I don't
Mm.
have to do business development because I just got something that came in.
Mm.
So again, it's in that state of being that changes the order. And then whatever I haven't crossed out, I will start a new page for the next day, and and even if I have to do that for several days, I don't like to go back and see what I needed to go back in several pages before.
Mm.
That to me, for me, is very efficient. It helps me always prioritize, reprioritize, and things that sometimes could be priority suddenly do not become priority because something else trumps it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Yeah, bring in spirit, bring the consciousness. What a concept. um, how can someone work with you now?
Well, they can go to our website. They can go to sageprosperitypartners.com/wealth consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and they will find, yeah, it's right there on the screen, and they will
Beautiful.
find the program. Um, Anybody can contact me through info@sageprosperitypartners.com. And one of the things that I wanted to share is that not only am I so excited to have this program be given to the community of Serious Joy, and this is definitely one of my ways of saying thank you for having me, not
Mm.
only as a speaker, but also here on Astro Mingle. I'm also including, for the first 12 people who sign up, I am going to be giving a free one-on-one private coaching with me.
Wow. That's very generous. And it's magic will come. You know, I have to say that, you know, in my readings, like there's two things that come up always in every reading. And one is life purpose and the other is being able to, you know, manifest more money. Like it seems like the two things that people cannot find. And it seems like your work is addressing both of them in one swoop. So I'm excited to see what happens in your field and hopefully
Thank
work
you.
with you on things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
money flows. Money flows when we stop thinking about where money is. Money
mhm,
is a natural energetic flow that we often stop, like a dam, when
mhm,
we think about it, because we are afraid that it's not enough.
yeah.
And as soon as we start to give ourselves of the freedom and to create in our minds this ability to create it before it even comes, to get excited, to get into that entheos, energetically, frequency wise, it's right there. It's there. It's already here for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, with the astrology, I would say it's like we weren't aware it was there, but I see that awareness coming on all the time now. So I think you're positioned in a perfect position for the next chapter. I'm really excited to see what you do. I'm really excited to see what Pluto and Aquarius inspires you to do. And we'll have to come back and talk to us about how things have progressed, especially considering we have Uranus leaving Taurus for the first time since World War II, and Pluto and Aquarius. I think that your field is going to be very exciting going forward. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for having me. Thank you for all of your staff. They've been so wonderful. It's been
Amazing.
lovely getting to know everybody, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Thank
Me
you.
too.
Okay.
Have a good weekend. Bye bye. Well, we rolled with it there as far as a little blackout there. I can't tell you, I held back in this interview my own personal stuff because I am so excited about this concept of conscious capitalism. Personally feel that Lisa's work is just beginning. I feel that, you know, a lot of our, if you want to call it abuse in life and where we have kind of stayed stuck in our way of living is the influence of corporate culture and sort of the business model of today. I think a lot of people learned that during COVID when they went home and stopped working and suddenly could never unsee that, you know, corporations or jobs taking over our life. So to me, there's just a gold mine waiting there where if we can bring some of the wisdom of spiritual capitalism into business and in profitability, I think you're going to see the world change based on profit, which is be cool to see. Well, friends, thank you so much for our guest tonight, Lisa, and we thank you for tuning in. We'll be back in 1 week. We're not going to have a hiatus on this particular show. I look forward to being there for you. Until then, remember, we love you. Live, love, be.
It's in the stars to seriously change your life with a subscription to Serious Joy. Sign up now for your personalized step astrology and daily pep talks. Highly predictive astrology sent via text and email. Daily zodiac weather reports. Advanced lectures, classes, edutainment series, and more. Sign up today for only $3.99 to seriously change your life.
What if marketing could be a spiritual practice? Not pressure, not perfection, just resonance. You're not stuck. You're just trying to channel a soul message through a Canva template or a strategy that is not built for your energy. I'm Lily, your creative freelance BFF. I guide mystics and multi-passionates from not yet to launch using human design and AI soulful systems. This isn't just theory, it's the process I've refined with 40+ clients and creative collaborators.